Hey guys, what's up my fellow Call of Duty gaming elites? Hope you've all had a good week. I apologize for not having released a video in a while. I've been quite busy over the last few weekends, but now I'm here and back at you with another video topic that I'm honestly very surprised no other major COD channel has really mentioned, and at least not to my knowledge. So feel free to correct me if I'm wrong and if I'm not the first to make something like this, but the thing I'm going to talk about today is the major advantages some of the operators have over the other ones, and I know the video title might sound a little bit clickbaity, but I 100% stand by my claim that certain operators give pretty big advantages in Warzone. So, if you do end up enjoying this video, I'd massively appreciate a like and subscribe, and with that said, let's power on through this. And so, the thing that really makes certain operators overpowered in my opinion has got nothing to do with their stats or anything like that, because they're all the same in that regard, but it's got all to do with the cosmetics and how they look, especially with the operators that have ghillie suit skins. Because when you are lying down in the grass or within a bush, it makes you very difficult to see, and in a lot of these clips you'll see in this video I've made, I have people walking straight past me, and even staring directly at me, but because I'm so well blended in with the bush I'm hiding in, I'm nearly invisible to them and very easy to miss, so I'm pretty much, like, safe until I start shooting at them, and this just gives me such a huge advantage in these gunfights, because I'll be able to always get the first shot off pretty much most of the time, and it's just pretty ridiculous. There have even been many situations where I'm being chased by another team, but instead of running away, I just find a nearby bush to lie down in, and then I wait for them to cross my path and run past me so I can ambush them and get the kill. And the reason this works so well in Warzone is because when you look at an enemy player, there is no red nameplate that appears on top of their character, unlike in the regular multiplayer. So if you did try this tactic out in core multiplayer game modes, unfortunately it won't work because of that red nameplate that appears over your head, which gives your position away if you're hiding in a bush or something. But in Warzone, this isn't the case, so you can quite easily blend in there and no one will be able to see you unless they have really keen eyes and they spot you moving around. And just to show you guys a point of view example of how effective this is in Warzone, you can see here in the kill cam that I'm nearly invisible, and the only thing that really gave me away was the muzzle mist coming out of my gun. So, with some of these clips you've seen now, hopefully you'll know how strong this really is in Warzone. And so with all that said, I'm now going to go and reveal to you guys which operator I think is the best for camouflage and hiding in grass and things like that. Because whilst there are several ghillie suit operators, I don't think they're all that good. If, of course, you're just going for the best possible camo and difficulty to spot. I don't think all the ghillie suit operators are equal, because a lot of them in the game actually have lots of parts that are just very easy to spot, in my opinion, unless you're prone and you just leave your back turned to the enemy. But a good player who's perceptive will be able to see, like, for example, some parts in this ghillie suit that are just easier to spot, like the head might have the face being shown, or like some of the operator's body skin might be showing, which just gives their position away if they're trying to hide away. So, a really good example of what I mean here is with Grinch's Eloco ghillie suit pack, because as you can see here, it only gives good camouflage on his back, but everywhere else is super easy to spot. You can see he's wearing colorful shorts, and at the front his body is quite visible and not covered by the camouflage, so this would be an example of a ghillie suit operator that I'm not a very big fan of, and I wouldn't say is a good one for trying to hide away and be camouflaged. So, with that said, long story short, from looking at and inspecting all the different ghillie suit packs in the game, I have found that the best one is Grinch's Asan Bosam skin pack, and the primary reason for this is three things really. Firstly, the shade of green in this ghillie suit is very good and not too bright, so it blends extremely well with the bushes and grass on the Warzone map. And secondly, you can see that the camouflage parts of the ghillie suit cover pretty much every part of his body. If the face bit didn't have the goat mask and instead was camoed as well, I think this would be nearly perfect, but luckily the ghost mask is quite dark colored and actually very hard to spot as well if you're hiding, so it's not too bad. And lastly, the thing that this ghillie suit pack has going for it that the other ones don't, is that it makes you look kinda blobby and unnaturally shaped, both from the front and from the back. And what I mean by this is, if you look at the head, legs and arms, for example, the grassy parts of the ghillie suit kind of stick out a bit, and it makes the humanoid shape of your character not that easy to make out. So what this means is that when you're lying down in a bush, someone who walks up to you will have a harder time noticing you because your shape will kind of merge with the floor or bush you're camping in, whilst another operator, for example, will have a more distinct human shape where their legs, arms, and heads are clearly outlined and therefore more easier to catch out. I mean, this one thing I suspect is actually helping me win a lot of my Gulag matches, as I've just begun to go prone on the floor and wait for my opponent to reveal themselves instead of trying to chase them. And as you can see in quite a lot of these Gulag clips here, they don't seem to notice me lying there, even though there is no grass around, which I think might be because my humanoid shape is not easy to spot. Well, that and the fact that the Gulag is also quite dark, to be honest, so that could be it as well. But I think this is actually helping me out to blend with the floor somehow. Okay, so with all that said and done now, I'm gonna go over some tips about how to play most effectively like this, with the knowledge that you'll be very hard to spot in grassy parts of the map. And for my first tip I have for you, it's actually a bit counterintuitive to everything I just said, because I'm going to actually recommend to not always go out of your way to find the nearest grass spot to hide in, because whilst it's tempting to do this, you'll often just be leaving your squad mates behind, and I found that if your squad mates are going into a building or something, you'll often do a lot better just by following them and helping them to defend that building instead of always trying to find the nearest grass spot to hide behind. But, on the other hand, this strategy works really well if you're, say, out in the open, or you're alone and you're caught out and there's other people nearby. That's when I'd recommend finding a bush or grass to hide in if there's no building you can run into. So I treat this like a backup strategy that works very well when all else fails. And you'll usually be able to comfortably get at least 1 or 2 kills before dying. But if you're against a good team, I've found that after killing the first person, they'll usually be able to spot you and take you out, unfortunately. But sometimes you get lucky and you're able to team wipe an entire team if they're not paying attention to you. So yeah, sometimes this strategy really pays off effectively. In solos, I still prefer to drive around in my truck and gun people down like that. But this strategy works very well if my truck is nearly destroyed and say I'm in the last circle, then I find the nearest bush to hide behind and pretty much no one can see me. Okay, so for my next tip I have for you, it would be to try and remain still as much as possible until you're ready to shoot. Because if you're constantly moving and twitching around, someone nearby to you will easily be able to spot that, and you'll thus blow your cover when you could have been ready for the perfect ambush. So yeah, just remember not to move around too much, just stay still and only really jump out of your spot and move if you know you're gonna have to shoot someone. And this leads us to my last tip for you guys, which might sound pretty obvious, but it can be pretty easy to miss out as well. And that's, if you're going to try to do this properly, don't use any bright and colorful camos on your weapons, because that's very easy to spot for someone who's trying to run past you. So I tend to go for the dank forest tiger camo, as you can see here on my guns, just because it gives the darkest shade of green that I could find. But if you don't have this unlocked, I'd just pick whichever camo makes your gun look the darkest, because anything bright will just stick out and give your position away. Now, I know this all probably sounds a bit cringy and desperate, since obviously this game isn't real life and I'm not a special forces sniper or anything like that, but even so, it can be pretty fun to wipe an enemy team who had no idea where you are. So if you want to feel like an invisible predator, or at least the next closest thing to it in Warzone, I'd definitely suggest trying this strategy out. And yeah, that leads us to the end of this video now, so thanks for watching it until the end, and if you like the content, I'd massively appreciate a like and subscribe to the channel, but if not, that's okay, fine, that's fine too. I hope you enjoyed the video, and yeah, thanks and stay safe, and hopefully see you guys in the next video.